What's up?
Hey,
Can
can
you
you
hear
see
me?
me okay? Yeah, I don't always have great Wi-Fi in my house, so hopefully it works.
No, it's all good.
Cool.
How's your day
Actually,
going?
let me just turn my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, usually the LTE.
Are we all good?
Yeah, we can go with that.
Cool.
Um, by the way, who took those pictures and where were those pictures taken that I had up before?
My friend Caroline, she does like a little bit of like photography as a hobby, and she lives in Stone Harbor, which is where I like spend my summers. I don't know if you know it, it's a shore in the south of New Jersey.
Yeah, of course.
Like, do you know like Wildwood? Yeah, it's right next to it.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I know we talked a little bit on, or like I said, a lot of it on the call, but and the cool thing about this is it's archived, so a lot
Yeah.
of people can watch it back. I'm gonna put it up, but how what's like a big learning that you can address for people that like more so about yourself that you're learning through this time?
Like through the quarantine time or
Yeah, through the quarantine time
yeah,
specifically.
yeah. So I've always been a huge planner and like focus on the future kind of person and having like I have to know what's next. I have to be actively working towards it. And my goals have always been like actionable, but like kind of more towards my life and not always like things to level up within myself, but
Mm.
like things to change in my external environment that don't always depend solely on me, but that are, yeah, I guess external goals.
Mm.
That through this quarantine and like with everything being so uncertain, learning to focus more on the present and like what I can control within myself
Absolutely.
rather than just like where do I want to be traveling in September or where do I want my business to be in a year from now? Because like we have no idea what that landscape is going to look like or if traveling will even be possible. So focusing on just like what life is right now, and how good that is, and just being
Yeah.
present in the moment where I am in my external environment, and then focusing on up leveling my skill set both in like my design stuff, and personal growth,
Mm.
organizing and systemizing and planning and like the kind of stuff that I can control in the present rather than living for September when we have no idea what September is going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good sort of transition mark because I didn't start it off with it. And hello, Thomas there. But can you talk more about, because before when you were on the podcast and we talked within like the sphere of Dream Big and Co. In the community, you were more so in life coaching. You had a Prosperous Pursuit, but like
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear or have others know the update with the goals, with what you're doing with design work, and like what your focus is and how you're gearing your lifestyle to be aligned with the aspirations you have with traveling and like all of that stuff.
Yeah, so I guess kind of on the tail end of that, like my aspirations with traveling and just lifestyle aspirations as a whole. When I graduated college, that's kind of what started my whole path because I was like, I really don't want to get a job. I can't stand the thought of being like stuck in an office all summer. Um, so I wanted to be location independent and work for myself and that whole thing. And at the time, I was writing this blog called The Prosperous Pursuit. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go full time on this. We'll figure out how to monetize it. Um,
Mm.
so I went down like so many different routes of figuring out how to monetize a blog. And ultimately, like my blog was focused on personal growth. So I started to move into the coaching world. And after running my first coaching program, it just really like wasn't, it didn't feel like and light me up how I thought it would. Um, and just like was such a drain on my energy rather than a boost
Yeah.
to it. And I didn't really see like how that could be a path forward. But through writing my blog and building that business, I had learned a decent amount about website design and kind of always found myself getting caught up in like making pretty graphics for my Instagram or for my website, when really like I needed to be creating the coaching program, but I was creating the perfect website to host the coaching program instead. And I had like been getting a lot of questions of how do you build your website and all this stuff. And I kind of just, like, someone said to me one time, like, people get paid to do that. I was like, yeah, I thought that, but like I never really put two and two together. So I put kind of an offer out there to my community and was like, hey, if anyone wants help with their website or their branding, let me know. And just offered like some really low cost services to test the waters, and get some client experience. And that just took off in a way that was so natural and so aligned that like I always had the energy to do it. And I was spending extra time on it when I didn't need to be working, and just it just felt so much more right than what I was doing before. So that shift was pretty fast. Like I found myself spending all my time on the website stuff and the new stuff rather than the old stuff. And that kind of just, I was like, BRB to my newsletter. I'll come back, and kind of just never came back to it. Never really went back to writing a blog. So still with that underlying goal of wanting to be location independent and be able to travel and just kind of like control my own schedule and my own future, but just a different vehicle and method of getting there. And even still the same mission behind like with what I was doing with my blog, like empowering people to take their own futures into their own hand and live a life of more freedom. A lot of the people that I work with and clients that I work with are small businesses, because they are kind of leaving their job and going into a business and helping them create a website and a brand that's going to launch them into that. So that's still the kind of person who I like working best, and still a mission of empowerment, just a different vehicle of getting there.
Yeah, I like the way you phrase that. It's just a different vehicle in getting there, because we had Sophie Barron on Monday, and she had this one organization called Table Talks, and then she transitioned to what it's now called the Conversationalist, while the other one's still going. And I was so intrigued on how she like was able to pivot so fast and be okay with that change. So I was going to ask you, like, what was it like? And I think we talked about this before. It was more of a gradual change, right? It wasn't just like an instantaneous thing. And like what? Because I really want people to know that, one, it's okay to change, but then two, like how did you navigate that to like enter into the new vehicle? Because it's not an easy thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a gradual thing. It was like for a while, the website stuff I was considering like my side projects. And then I just realized like I was spending probably 80% of my week on that and 20% of my week on other stuff. And it just naturally like happened in the way I shifted my time and my workflow. But when I first like took on a first client for that kind of thing, I was still full-time writing my blog, doing coaching programs, and actually like launched a coaching program while I had website design side work. And then after that, and I really like didn't enjoy doing the program, I was like, all right, it's time to make that shift. So after that group coaching program was like when I made the conscious mental shift to myself that like, all right, we're moving away from one thing and into the other. But even still, I was like publishing a blog post every here and there, still posting on my old Prosperous Pursuit Instagram, still like sending newsletters, and just kind of everyone was filled with like, sorry, I haven't written in 3 weeks. I'm trying to stay on schedule. And it just kind of got
I
to the
felt like
point
you were
where I was,
catching up. Yeah.
yeah, always felt behind. And it was just a mental thing of like, I should be doing more for this. And I just couldn't keep up with both things. That I think maybe it was in August of last summer, I put out a blog post kind of saying, this is my shift. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this blog, but for now, this is where I'm focusing my energy. And that kind of just freed up that mental space to like fully move into the new thing after I put it out there to the people that I felt somewhat accountable to like deliver content to, or just even that were like, hey, why haven't you written in a while? Just putting that out there and clearing that air a bit, freed up that mental space, and like made that commitment to myself to fully move forward with the design agency.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you're able to work more like optimally and you just feel liberated. So your work is like better because of that. But then you're also doing something you love, you know, to be able to make that transition. The one thing I was going to ask too, in regards to the transition, is when you were doing all that, I'm sure it was like a big burden. Like, how did you maintain the pace you did without burning out? Because you have to like juggle both of those things. Was it just like, how did you manage your energy in a way?
Yeah. So that's kind of when I realized like something's got to give, because I wasn't able to manage my energy and I was frustrated. And I, like, at the end of every day, there was never a day where everything got done. And it was kind of like taking a mental note of what the things that were always getting pushed off to the next day were. And they were like those newsletters, blog posts, Instagram content, whatever. But yeah, I would say towards the end of when I started writing my blog, I was totally burned out with it. Like, writing content was forced. Kind of like even posting on Instagram just like felt like I have to do this, not I'm
Yeah,
doing it and
yeah.
showing up because I want to. Um, so I think it was actually like that burnout that started to happen from that was what made me realize, like, okay, it's really time to make this shift. So in hindsight, it was a good thing because it led me to where I am, but it wasn't necessarily something I avoided or had tactics to manage
Yeah.
it. It like fully happened, and I was just a little bit swimming in too much work and working with low energy. Um, and then once I made that shift, and even still, I mean, there's days where I'm not as energized by certain things. If certain projects are challenging, or it's just like not my favorite style of thing to work on, and you just have to get through it. And on those days, like, just taking action and getting like those first tasks done in the day helped a
Yeah.
lot with that. But definitely, like, I guess I'm more than a year into my design agency now, and the burnout that I felt from like writing my blog and having to show up on Instagram and do all those things I thought I was supposed to do rather than running my business how I wanted to in a way that aligned with me, I have not felt at all.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple things I want to mention because there was a lot there. There was a quote by Oprah once. It was like, you can have it all, but just not all at once.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
so I mean, Oprah's always hitting those heartstrings. Uh, but yeah, that was perfect. That I read today actually, and that aligns with what you just said. Um, and then the other things were in regard to. I think I kind of lost my train of thought because if I said it, it would kind of subdue like everything that was said before. I would just be like reiterating everything you mentioned. But yeah, it's cool to see that you're in a good place with that now, and
Definitely.
that you're doing things you want to do instead of like have to do. But at the same time, I always think about there's one quote as well. It's you have to do what you need to do in order to have what you want.
For sure.
So it's like in a way, like although the stuff with the prosperous pursuit is now in the past, it was like a vital part into like your path is like you had to drive the one vehicle, get off, and then now drive this one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so crazy. I think I was reading like The Alchemist or something one day and just had this huge epiphany of like I think I was probably in a rut or something about like, oh, I wasted all this time. And that was a big thing of why I didn't, it took me a while to let go of writing my blog and
Yeah.
was still like, keeping it. I was like, well, I put a year and a half of my life into this and so much energy. It was like every single day from the time I got up to the time I went to bed, and just never saw like this return that felt like I put a year and a half of work into this, and it's not any further along than where it was, and now I'm just going to give up on it. And it felt a lot like giving up. And then I had this epiphany that like, oh wait, like none of that was time wasted. I wouldn't
Mm.
be able to do what I'm doing right now if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for this little idea of like, oh, let me start a blog and learn how to build a website for
Mm.
myself. That's kind of what started everything. um, and background of that. I have always had a big interest in art and took art lessons my whole life. So that was really like the background in there. But the blog like led me to the current business model I have, and just
Yeah.
seeing different problems in the industry that other bloggers were having or other small businesses were having, and experiencing those things myself. Like without all of that, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. So for a while, I had that mindset like, oh, all that time wasted, and now I completely see like that was the one bus that had to take you to off and get on the other one.
Yeah.
Uh, so for
That,
sure.
that's exactly I got the one thought back from before. I think I resonate with what you said, which is start like in the beginning when we just started talking on the live. You said just to start and sort of figure things out as you progress, and you can't look at that change as like a bad thing because that was like you figuring it out as you were going. And I say I resonate with that because that's sort of where I'm in my boat of building this media company and
Yeah.
this creative agency as well. And it's like I think in our generation, there's obviously this looming thought of this imposter syndrome or not knowing how to do things simply because we don't know how, right? But it's that ability to jump into the fray and just figure it out as you go and be okay
Yeah.
with that failure because everyone's in the same boat. Like everyone's trying to figure it out as they go.
Everyone, especially like, I mean, we're both young. A lot of people watching this, I'm
Exactly.
sure, and like it's such a time of exploring and learning and just like, and I know it's like such a thrown around there word, intuition, but just like following your intuition of like what sparks your interest and going after that. And like for me, that was writing a blog and personal development. I was so immersed in that and saw like this is what I'm going to build this into, and that's my long-term vision for it. Isn't exactly what happened, but it led me to what I'm doing now. And now I have no idea how long I'll do this for or what this will lead me to next, but just kind of following those things that feel right in the moment and trusting that they're going to lead you to where you need to go, and not so much focusing on like, is this the thing I want to do for the rest of my life? Because I think we're taught to put so much pressure on that. And like realistically, you're probably going to do so many different things, and you can do so many different things. You can change
Yeah.
paths any time. That it just has to be right for right now. And it doesn't have to be right for the next 50 or however many years.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like as much as our tag and brand name is dream big, it's like that like dream big, but don't be attached to that outcome.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, like I know you've talked about this a bunch before. It's just like if that intention is good, and you do follow your intuition, like yeah, at the end of the day, like skill is important and that brings a lot of value to your worth, but that passion thing is just as big. Yeah, I love that. Um, and say this pandemic wasn't going on, what would your plans be for the summer in terms of travel and moves with the design agency you have now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's actually been traveling for the past 2 months. I would likely be going away for the month of May. Probably be somewhere in South America. I was planning, um, and then I was actually planning on being home for the summer anyways. So that just happened a little sooner than I was planning, and hopefully, I mean, in New Jersey, summer is actually really nice, so I don't mind being home in summer. It's escape the winter, and I'll be here for the
Yeah.
summer. Um, so I'm excited for summer here. Hopefully, we'll be able to go to the beach and go out a bit. Um, but yeah, so my summer plans didn't include that much travel. That was kind of my period of rest and reset, which just came a little early, and I've actually really been enjoying it. Um, and then come September, hopefully, if things are open, potentially another couple month South America trip or a couple month Europe trip, depending on where the situation is better and what restrictions are still in place and precautions to take, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But definitely come the fall, looking to travel again.
Yeah, I would love to if you can dabble in like how do you travel best because you're one of the people I know who travels the most. Like, how do you like what is a quick synopsis of like how you prepare and like how you go about doing everything? Because you end up managing to get to a lot of places, and I know traveling is like it's like a lot of planning, but like also just going with the flow because so many things pop up. But like, what's your process for traveling well?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not the type that's like run around the world, see as many places as I can. The backpacker living in a hostel type is like so not my style. I really, as much as I like to travel and explore, I'm very much a homebody. I like my home, so I like to travel in a way that allows me to set up a home in other locations. So I like to spend like a month in a place at a time, at least, or it could be more, 3 months, and just be able to be there long enough to like form relationships,
Mm.
and travel a lot of places in one place, but have a home base. So, for example, when I was in Ecuador, I had like a home base in Quito, which is their capital, and then um, was able to like every weekend or even during the week like go to different surrounding cities or fly to different places in there, and
And you
same with
plan that out so that you go to the main part so that you can go to the like popular places around it.
I mean, that wasn't exactly how that happened. That was just I had a friend there and that's where we
You got
were.
it.
But knowing that now, I think that helps a lot, and that's how I would do
Mm.
it, because it just makes it a lot easier to see more. But I think my main priority is like enjoying that home base spot and it feeling like home. Um, my phone is so fast. Maybe I
Running low on juice.
can have. All
Yeah,
right, if it
it's
dies,
like
I'll come back. I have a wireless charger, but I don't know
yeah,
if
I
I.
mean if it ends up dying, that can be us going with the flow.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
charging. Um, so hopefully it won't die. But yeah, so setting up a home base and like having that is super important. Um, Traveling light so I can go places like I normally just bring
Mhm.
the backpack.
Yeah.
It's super easy. Like for work, I just travel with a laptop. I know a lot of like, other designers like pack a whole monitor with them and stuff. I don't do that. And then just making sure. So I usually just use like Airbnb, but making sure I have a place that is comfortable enough to like work out of, has good Wi-Fi, has like a kitchen, and I'm willing to like spend a bit more for a place that feels super homey that I can work out of, so that I don't have to worry about like going to a cafe every day to work if I don't want to, or finding a
Mm.
co-working space or that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I would say that home environment while I'm traveling is probably most important to me to making it sustainable and not burning
Yeah.
out, not getting tired, still being productive.
That's interesting because like although you do travel a lot, you still have that like you said homebodiness. Um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's actually a really good like thing to keep in mind because I never really thought about that. It's just I always thought like I'll stay anywhere, I'll just like backpack it, but like you output a lot of energy when you do that, right?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
guess
very
it depends on
sustainable.
the kind of trip. Like if I was going on, like if I was like I'm taking off work for a month and I'm going with my friends, we're just going around, like that whole backpacker lifestyle would be so awesome and you could see so many places. But I think as a lifestyle and to be able to work while doing it, I need, and I think most people need a little bit more routine and stability.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do what works for you, but also keep in mind everything you said.
Really.
um, yeah, I think that was great. I appreciate like everything that was said here. And if there's anything else you wanted to bring up, we could cap it off and just let this live in the live on Instagram for 24 hours.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. But if anyone
Awesome.
has questions, any other questions, or we can let it live in the live. And if someone wants to message in their questions, I can answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Message Sam if anyone hears this about anything related to design, life. Uh, what she said before hopefully appeals to you because I don't know. stuff rings true all the time with what you say. So I appreciate you being able to come on here.
Thank you. I appreciate you and having me on here. This was fun.
Yeah, this is great. I feel very vibed out now.
Yeah.
Very chilled. Yeah. No, this is great. Thanks, guys, for joining in who did and popping in and out. But Sam, I'll talk to you really soon.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye,
All right.
guys.
See ya. Have a good night.
Strong like a tree.